Welcome to this moment in time when you get to chill out, tune in, and extract wisdom that you can use to grow your business with your first 1,000 clients. So today, I have something special for all my coaches in the audience. In fact, it is so unbelievable. This process has worked so well for me as a coach. I wrote a book about it, and I want to give it to you for free. I want you to go to coachelevation.com and download this short book. It is available on Amazon if you prefer to have a hard copy, but I recommend getting this book right away. It will change every session that you go into as a coach, and frankly, it will change every part of your life just by understanding one very important element, and that is your true purpose. Imagine being able to discover your true purpose and connect it to your true mission in just about 30 minutes. Well, that's what you're going to learn in this free book. Go to coachelevation.com. Now on to my guest and his incredible story. Now, right out of high school, my guest went to work for General Electric and spent the next 10 years building skills, all kinds of skills. But in 2003, a sudden shift happened. In fact, the company that he was working for, the division he was working for, basically closed. And that left him at a point in life where he needed to make some decisions. So he decided that it was time to start a company, not one, not five, but 12. And by starting 12 companies, he also figured out that some are going to work and some aren't, and how to pivot the ones that he thought would be the most successful. And that's exactly what he did. And he was working real hard at doing this until he uncovered a little tiny book that changed his life, changed my life, and probably your life too. If you remember reading it, it's called Think and Grow Rich. Now, this little book has been around, I think, since the 40s or 50s, and our guest will explain the origin of that and how his involvement got deeper into the processes themselves from the master himself. So what ended up happening is he got so inspired that he took all of this gentleman's courses. Bob Proctor was the author of the book. And it turns out that eventually he ended up actually working directly with the master himself. All those years of working with Bob Proctor, unfortunately, Bob has gone, but his work is alive and well through my good friend and now guest on your first 1,000 clients. Welcome, Brian Dalmaso, to the show.
Hey, Mitch. Thanks for having me, brother. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I truly appreciate you bringing me on the show.
Well, you have a lot to offer, and you have a lot to give, and that's why you're here, because that's what we do. But before we start, tell us how this all started for you.
Yeah, I mean, like anybody else, it's a journey, right? There's ups and downs. And, if I go back to my early days in high school, I was very blessed to have what I would now call some mentors. I didn't know back then what a mentor was. I didn't know anything about that. But my high school tech teacher actually took a shine to me. I was in a machine drafting class, which is sort of entry level to engineering. Yep. And I did very well in the class. I really enjoyed it. This is back when we used to draw on the boards, by the way, not on CAD. This is going back. And he took a shine to me and ended up graduating a technical high school. He was able to get me into the General Electric company at age 17 on a kind of a co-op or an internship, which they had never done before. So that was my first big break, my first mentor that kind of paved the way, getting into something really big. And if anybody knows General Electric, I mean, when you get in there, some of the people that were there would be like, okay, kid, just put your 40 years in, you get your golden parachute. Like nobody leaves General Electric. Right. 6 weeks vacation. And it was great work. We were working on nuclear turbines for submarines and power gen, and it was really good. So I was around a bunch of employees, right? Engineers and draftsmen and shop people, and there was a union in there. So I wasn't in the environment of entrepreneurship, right? I was around employees, and everybody told me I made it. So we spent 10 years there, and I got married, and a few things happened in a short period of time, about 8 weeks, that really rocked my world and really opened my eyes. And I'm sure people can relate to this in their own, various ways. General Electric, the division I was at, suddenly said, hey, we're shutting down in 6 months. Mm-hmm. And I had no other revenue streams. I didn't know anything other than what I was doing. And at the same time, my wife at the time said, hey, listen, I'm leaving. It wasn't because of that, although maybe there was something there. It was a past relationship that really never ended. We had a 2-year-old daughter. So in a period of about 8 weeks, I lost my job and career, my wife, my daughter, and where I was living in a house because we were together, right? For some reason, and I now know what it is, but back then, I've always just said it is what it is, right? If I can't change it, it is what it is, and I move on. And some people call that like really cold. They used to be like, what, do you have no emotions? Now I know it's just a high level of awareness. There's only two ways to go with that, right? You curl up in a ball or you move forward. So I moved forward. I just ended up living with some friends and had a good time. And I ended up working for probably the smallest company in the world. I was taking a bunch of CAD courses, building my skills, and I found these two principal engineers that were starting their own company. So they hired me as their first employee. Yep. And it was absolutely awesome. We had about a 5-year run. We did a lot of process automation equipment for Evergreen Solar, for American Superconductor, and we would literally design it, build it in-house, test it, and implement it. It was very cool work. And they grew to about 20 employees over 5 years, and then the economy took them down around 2006 or so, right around the housing crash. So I had to go back to the drawing board again. Now, thankfully, when I was at General Electric towards the end, I started a little handyman business, right? I was in a cul-de-sac community, and I painted my house, built some decks, and people said, oh, can you do that for me? So I ended up starting a little handyman business and turned it into like a design build. I was designing decks, and I was doing flooring and all kinds of things, and just built my skills there. So I was very lucky to have that little thing, because when GE folded and then this other company collapsed, I was able to transition to my next mentor, who is a general contractor, very successful general contractor in our area that I had met through, at that point, my next wife. And her whole family was in construction. So I got into a whole new career. I was his project manager. I was actually designing the homes. We were building them. We had a massive run. It was awesome. But then again, the housing collapse there in 2007 and 8 took him down. Once again, here I am by myself, right? So I've had these series of events. Mm-hmm. And thankfully, I had my own company still, and I was doing stuff on the side. And I really just put the gas down in that from about 2008 on to about 2014. So I built that company up to about $1 million a year. But in construction, only about 10% of that lands in your pocket. So sure. We built it up to about $1 million a year. And then I had my next, paradigm shift. Me and my wife at that point got divorced. It just, she was going off on her career. I was doing mine. And it just kind of got a little toxic without getting too deep into it. So I had to hit the reset button again at age 38. Again, we had a big house that I built. Her land, my house, 5,000 square feet. I mean, it had a 30-foot high ceiling in the middle, had 5 steel beams. This thing was awesome. And it came out of my head onto paper in my hands and built it. So we sold that, and I was back in an apartment, kind of hit the reset button again. And then somebody approached me in a network marketing business, which was really the pivotal shift in my entire entrepreneurial career. And that's when all these other companies developed. It wasn't 12 companies in one shot. It was 12 companies over a period of about 4 years. But I got into an energy-based network marketing company. They did residential electric bills. Right. So it wasn't pills, potions, and lotions, but it was the network marketing leveraged model. And we were able to cut people's bills down for no cost. So I was like, this is a no-brainer. So I scaled that. I had my construction company. I reached out to the number 2 income earner in that company. He was making about $150,000 a month. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you get to 7 figures quickly in this industry? I know most people don't do it because they don't take it serious, but there's a whole nother sector of people that do take it serious. Mm-hmm. And you can get to 7 figures pretty quick. So he took me under his wing, and that was my next mentor. I still didn't know what a mentor was, though. I just started to learn about it through him. And I listened to what the guy said. I did exactly what he told me to do. And one of the things he told me to do was read the book Think and Grow Rich. Not just read it, but study it and implement it. So in the next 12 months, I became the top recruiter in the whole company, scaled my income. And at the end of that 12 months, my mentor said, hey, you should go check out this guy in Vegas at the GoPro Masters. His name's Eric Worre, a bunch of people there. That's when I met Bob Proctor. He was one of the speakers. So it was like, at that point, it was Richard Branson, Tony Robbins was there, Eric Worre. I mean, there's about 20 speakers, all high profile, John Maxwell, and then Bob Proctor. And I'd never heard of Bob. And he was completely different than everybody else. Everybody else just kind of rah, get you going. And it was awesome. Nothing wrong with that, but there was no tangible, like, how do I, change what I now know as a paradigm? But Bob was teaching on the stick man, conscious, subconscious, body, right? He taught me in that one, there's 10,000 people there, that your subconscious mind is like an operating system in a computer. All the programs you have up to now are probably given to you by other people and schooling over time, but you can change those programs. And I was like, holy cow, as an engineer, that made sense. Conscious, subconscious, body. So it was funny because the gentleman I was with in the audience, I looked at him, I said, I don't know who this guy is, but I'm going to get with him. I'm going to be teaching this stuff all over the world with him. And Bob had never met me. I'd never met him. And the chances of that happening were one in a million.
Right.
And I gave myself 2 years to do it. Well, 8 months later, I found myself up in Toronto with Bob for a week. It was a $30K investment, about 150 entrepreneurs from all over the world, something called the Matrix. It was a week-long deep dive with Bob. And him and I got to interact. And from that week, he actually offered for me to work with him as a consultant and start to teach and coach and train this material. The rest is, it's just a magical carpet ride. It's amazing. It went from half a dozen revenue streams to now 36 in a 10-year period. And we've been teaching, coaching, training this stuff ever since across, multiple platforms.
Well, what a story, Brian. First of all, I want to tell you that I had a little emotional pang when you described that moment when all of a sudden you had no house, no family, lost your daughter, lost your wife, lost your job. And the reason I say that pang was because it resonated with an incident in my life when my dad had gone through that very same thing. And so I certainly felt that about your story. It was beautifully told. But I also want to bring listeners up to speed just a little bit. Brian's current wife, Laura, is a delightful, wonderful, smart, intelligent, a creative individual. Again, it takes someone like you, Brian, to attract someone like Laura, of course, and vice versa. But here's the point. You can't get the sort of things that you see that you want until you elevate yourself, until you bring yourself to the level that you are then entitled to. Not that you're not before that, but now you're attracting at the same level that you exist. And that's part of what I love about what you teach. So if we could, I'd like to go a little deeper into some of that. We have a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners listening to the show. And a lot of them are probably in one of the places that you described along the timeline. And one other thing I also wanted to say, another resonance moment, was that I remember listening to Tony Robbins' tapes just as I was in this throes of maybe the worst time of my life. And I thought to myself, someday I'm going to work with this guy. I don't know how, but I'm going to work with this guy.
Oh, that's very parallel. Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Isn't that when you get that intuition, it just resonates so much that it goes beyond like, I want to learn from them to I want to work with them. So that's very similar.
Let's talk about that if we could for a second. And here's why. Because when I had that moment, it wasn't a thought to me. It was a picture. It was a complete visualization of Tony and I. Now, I had no reason to even think I would ever even meet him, let alone work with the guy. But in that moment in time, I saw myself. I saw the picture, and it was the picture that stayed with me more than the idea. Does that make sense?
It absolutely makes sense. Yeah, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
I guess. So let's talk more about that. So as I said, we're a lot of people here are in one of those places, one of the places you or I were at. And by the way, if you're just by now wondering who this guy is and what we're doing here and how this meeting took place, I want you to go to yourfirst1000clients.com. That's the name of the show. That is the website where you will find Brian Dalmaso's show page. And on this show page is a complete transcription of not everything we've said, but including any books, links, and something very special that Brian is going to give you a little bit later in the show. So, Brian, where do we start? Talk a little bit about mindset. Talk a little bit about how we can elevate our lives, and what can we learn from you in the next 20 to 30 minutes that can change something about how we see the world, or maybe even improve ourselves?
No, absolutely. Well, number one, when people say mindset, most people don't even know what that means, including myself for the first 40 years. I think, well, it's the way I think.
Right.
Maybe at a very surface level, but mindset, and there's mindset coaches that can't explain the word mindset. I challenge when you meet them, ask them, right? What does mindset mean to you? It's the way you think. That's very surface level. And it's, if you're going to change your mindset, don't we need to know really what it is, right? If you're going to change something, if you don't have that frame of reference at a foundational level, then you can't change it. So let's go deeper into what mindset is. So mindset is something we call paradigms. Right. And paradigm is just a fancy word to describe all of the mental programs stored in your subconscious mind, controlling all of your results. Once we understand we have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind, we have a body. This is what we were born with. This is the cybernetic mechanism that we are, right? Once you understand these pieces or these parts to what we are, we can start to change programs and get different results. And I'll give you a good example. Smoking is not a physical habit. It is a mental program expressed physically.
Right.
That makes sense. So
yes,
that's why people go to quit smoking. You can't just crush the cigarettes up physically. You have to change the mental program if you want it to stick. Wealth building is the same thing. It's a series of mental programs expressed physically. So smoking and wealth building are no different to the subconscious mind. Consciously, we know the difference. Subconscious are just accessing programs. Right now, I'm accessing a program called English language. My hands are moving, but I'm not thinking. Just mental activity. I'm accessing my memory from conscious to subconscious, but I'm not coming up with any new ideas. You and I are not masterminding on something we don't know, and I'm not writing. So I'm not thinking. I'm just accessing memory and accessing programs. So once we start to understand this, it's like, okay, so all of my results that I'm getting now, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially, relationships, right? We have that wheel of life, are a result of programs given to me by other people since birth. Our parents, whatever religion they were in, we get into kindergarten, grade school, high school, all those programs have been given to us by ignorant people in ignorant society. And ignorant is not a bad term. It just means not knowing. It's the opposite of knowledge, right?
Right.
We wouldn't have people at 65 years old broke, like a high percentage of them, if there was knowledge about wealth building. It only takes 6 months, not 40 years, right? So the evidence, I'm an evidence guy, I'm a numbers guy. The evidence would say that the educational systems that we have are broken. And there's no fault there. It just is, right? So that's the other part. There's no blame, there's no fault. So once we understand that mindset really equals all of the mental programs you have stored in your subconscious mind, now we can say, okay, how do we add new programs? How do we remove the ones that are not serving us, like overeating or obesity or like smoking or things that are abusive, and add things like wealth building? And I want to give you guys another example, and this will prove it, right? Whoever's listening right now, I really want you to close your eyes and imagine this. Imagine that you had grown up with Warren Buffett as your dad. And I don't know if he's a good guy or a bad guy. I haven't met him yet. But at least financially, if you're 30, 40, 50 years old, imagine being in that environment for several decades and where you would be at least financially, right? You would have all these mental programs. The answer is you'd be a billionaire, but you wouldn't think anything different. You wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm a billionaire every day, right? It's just like speaking English or speaking Chinese, speaking wealth. It's just another language, a series of programs. So the difference isn't you, it's your environment until we become aware. And once we become aware, which is what you and I teach, now we can create the new program. So there's a pivotal point. That's why we call it a paradigm shift. That's what happened to me when I met Bob. He showed me some very basic things. This is not rocket science. It's just not taught in school. He said, you have programs. This is how they got there. This is how we build new ones. Now, what do you want to do? Well, I want to get to 10 million in 12 months in my construction company. That's one thing I'd like to do. That was a 10x growth long before Grant was throwing a 10x up, right?
Sure.
And then we did. We went after that, and we achieved close to 8.5 million, but that's 850% growth in 12 months. And I was like, holy cow, like how big does this get? Well, the universal law of relativity states that there's no such thing as big or small. Everything's just relative to our conscious awareness.
Right. I
set a new goal of 21 billion in net worth and assets by age 60, which is like 9 years from now. And that's when the fun really started, right? Because that's relatively speaking, that's much bigger. If I was sitting with Elon Musk and Warren Buffett, they'd be like, well, that's a cute goal, kid. So it's all relative. It's all relative, right? It's just what I want. And ever since I put the practices into place that are taught in Think and Grow Rich, and what we teach is thinking and results, I've gone from those half dozen revenue streams to 36. We have a software company, consulting, all kinds of things, just having a lot of fun. I'm nowhere near 21 billion, but the evidence would say I'm moving in that direction.
That's great.
Just 2 days ago, I had a new conversation with a new business partner about a new global hedge fund that we're launching. I've never launched one before. That one alone could do it, right? The software company alone could do it. So it does appear that we are moving in that direction because I understand some of these things. There's no such thing as big or small. I just always focus on the positive, right? And it's not like a happy-go-lucky thing. It's positive or negative is a choice. Why would anybody ever focus negatively unless they want to attract negative things?
Of course. Let's go down that rabbit hole just a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good rabbit hole.
It is. And the reason I say it that way is because there's a lot of confusion around the things, the particular thing you said. You said the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my teaching is that there's the subconscious mind and the unconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference, although slight, is very important from my understanding.
Sure.
The subconscious mind is the mind where you store the things you do, like you said before about driving or talking. That's the subconscious mind. Those become the programs that run your automatic life. The unconscious mind is the programs that you are unconscious of. Those are the programs where somehow past pain was linked to an event that then later is sort of running like a subroutine in a computer in the background, waiting for a trigger to replay the part that will, quote unquote, protect you from harm. So, I'm sure you've heard many of the examples of this. Someone crosses the street to get hit by a car. It's 72 degrees. It's sunny. It's Tuesday. And then all of a sudden,
it all takes a snapshot from a traumatic incident.
Exactly. Now, the link to the unconscious part of that, some people say, is the physical or emotional pain connected to it. I don't know if you agree with any of this or not, but my question is...
Yeah, so you're breaking it down, like I said, you're breaking it down into a little bit more of a subset. And one of the things that Bob was a master at is teaching a Harvard-level subject at a 5th grade level.
Right.
That's why he didn't, you talk about 2 parts to the mind. There's many parts to the mind.
Right.
But if we go into all of that, most people will get lost. But people can understand a circle with a line, conscious, subconscious.
Got it.
Conscious mind is the thinking mind. That's where sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell.
Right.
We get a new idea. I want to get to 100K a month. Well, it's floating around in the conscious. How do we get into the subconscious?
Right.
Because the subconscious drives the body. The subconscious, about 96% of everything you do is habitual.
Right.
And the subconscious is controlling. So that's why Bob he kind of went into 2 parts. So like a 5-year-old to digest it. But yeah, you're correct. It breaks down into many, many deeper subdivisions and deeper topics for sure.
So here's my question. If you want to take or install a new program into the subconscious mind, which I think everybody wants to do, we all want to install the I want to be a billionaire program, like in the Matrix, we plug in the back of the head and all of a sudden we now know how to do that. But more importantly, how do we stop what's in the unconscious mind from preventing it from happening, from basically sidetracking us or sabotaging our efforts? How do we find those programs and eliminate them?
Sure. So two-part question. It's funny, you said plugging in the Matrix. That's my company's named after the movie. Right? We're born into a construct of lies. What is health? What is wealth? What is love?
Right.
When you understand these things at a deeper level, you realize that our educational system really pulled, and I don't know if it's intentional or not. You can get into conspiracy theories there, but it doesn't matter. None of that matters. It only matters what do we want, where are we at, and where we're going. The only reason we would look into the past is if we're trying to recreate the past, which most people are not trying to do.
Right.
So the way to install a new program is through the principle of autosuggestion. Now, anybody here can go get a copy of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which is where all this information comes from. If you look at the legacy, Bob was my mentor, Earl Nightingale was Bob's mentor, and Napoleon Hill, who wrote Think and Grow Rich, mentored Earl Nightingale. Now, Napoleon's mentor was Andrew Carnegie, the world's first recorded billionaire. So I'm just a good student. I'm carrying this torch forward along that lineage. But there's chapter 4 called autosuggestion, and it's just as simple as this. Less than 1% of the population has a written goal. This one here says, this is a short-term goal. This year, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning in excess of $10 million a month by 2023 through multiple revenue sources and a calm, confident, heavenly man with grace and ease. So about 1% of the population controls 96% of the wealth globally. And less than 1% has a written goal card. So as soon as somebody does this, put you in the 1% of thinkers. I also have one for health, and I have the $21 billion goal at age 60. So I carry these with me everywhere. Most people won't do this. They'll watch this show and they won't do this. They won't write out their chief definite aim. And then they'll wonder why 10 years from now they're not moving towards something. Their subconscious, it's a fleeting thought. Well, when you do this and you read this 10 times in the morning, 10 times at lunch, 10 times at night, forever, not for 30 days, until you reach it, right? That's the principle of autosuggestion.
I see.
the subconscious mind is about 1,000,000 times more powerful than the conscious mind that's storing data.
Right.
So we can't just do something once. That's why it's small bits of information repetitively.
So the first assignment for listeners is to go get yourself a set of 3x5 index cards. Sure. And now I do what you say in a little different way, but I do it. I don't. I carry it with me, but it's on my phone.
That's fine.
And I'm just saying
people put it on the face of their phone. Sure.
Yeah. And so I basically, and I break it down, we all have a different process, but I think goal setting has been part of my life ever since I learned it as a 19-year-old, when an instructor, mentor helped me understand it as well. So I love the process that you're taking us through now. So once we have our cards and we're reading them every single day, 5-10 times a day, maybe we even create a screen that's on our computers so that even between switching screens, we see them all the time.
Sure. Yeah.
So
one of the keys, though, very important, first thing in the morning, read it aloud 10 times, but get emotionally involved in the spirit of the wish fulfilled is what it's called, right? It's like, if we just write something down and read it mechanically, nothing will happen.
Right.
You actually have to fantasize about it already being done. And this is the part where we lose people. But everything starts in thought energy. This phone didn't just appear.
Yeah.
This was thought energy.
Right.
Back when Steve Jobs had $750 in a garage with Steve Wozniak, this was thought energy.
Yep.
But he had a healthy obsession. Now, he was an unconscious competent. He didn't need the gold card.
Yeah.
For everybody else on the planet, like he's 1 in a million. Everybody else, I need these, right? I don't need more, but I needed them for the first whatever years. Sure. And I still do that.
Yeah.
So it's important to understand everything starts as thought energy.
What you're teaching here is, to answer the question that I had asked you, is how do we get a new thought into the subconscious mind? And that is, the answer is training.
Yes.
We train repetition. Got it. Love that. Okay. So if we ended the show right now, I know I would have gotten everything I wanted out of it. I hope listeners, you're feeling the same way, but we're not done.
No, we can go deeper. I really want to give some value here.
Yeah.
And here, what the funny thing is, the same thing I teach my 10K a month clients, our elite ones, the same thing. It's just those people are programmed to take action on things.
Yeah.
I'm hoping people here take action, because I can give you the equation right now. We exist on 3 planes, right? Spirit, intellect, and body.
Right.
We are consciousness or spirit. We have an intellect, which is the thinking mind, and we're expressing through a body. So if you can create on all 3 planes, you will compress time and be much faster. This is where the people call it prayer or meditation. This is where we're obsessing and praying or meditating on the goal, morning, noon, and night. Not all day, like 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, right? There's a mental prayer or meditation part of the deal. Then there's an intellectual part. What is it you're going after? So in network marketing, I studied the world's best network marketers. I go with the number 1 coach in the world, the number 2 coach. They're now my friends. A lot of the top industry leaders. Intellectually, I studied the books.
Right.
And physically, I reached out to 50 people a day until I became the top recruiter.
Right.
Spirit, intellect, and body. So if you do the 1, 2, 3 things, I don't care if it's real estate, e-commerce, network marketing, or restaurant, right? Spirit, intellect, body. Number 4 is to let go and let God. And if people don't believe in God here, it's let go and let the universe take over.
Sure.
There's a part of it that we don't need to worry about. And that's where people get confused. They start something, then they worry about it. Well, that's like turning a light switch up and down and wondering why the light's blinking. Inconsistent energy flow.
Yeah.
If people remember that, just those 3 simple things: study in your mind, study in your industry, take daily measurable action, you can't not get to your goal.
It's so true. It's really, we were talking before the show started, and I was describing to you why I am able to charge what I do for the coaching work that I do. And mostly what I mentioned was the fact that I'm the one holding my clients accountable numerically on a weekly basis. And that's what the Clientfolio software is designed to do. But it's interesting that this is exactly what you're saying now, that in effect, if you knew what to do, which was simply what you want, and you wrote it down, which is as you described, and you followed your instructions, which is to visualize it, read it, and emotionally feel it every single day, 3 times a day, multiple times, then what your programming your mind to do, is to bring it into your physical reality. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Love it.
And there was a part 2 to your question too. Like you said, the sort of unconscious triggers and stuff, we'll know the results of those.
Right.
Maybe, like you said, maybe there's a divorce, maybe there's a foreclosure. Now you're going to buy a property and these programs kick in.
Yeah.
We actually don't have to worry about those. Oh. When you're building a new paradigm, you don't have to repair the old one. We just focus on what we want, and the rest of the stuff will just naturally dissolve over time. I'll give you a good example. A lot of people say, my goal this year is to get out of debt. Subconscious mind just hears debt. You can ask those people 10 years later, they're still in debt. Why don't we change it to let's get to 100K a month, right, through multiple sources? And that's all we're focusing on. Now we're just like spirit, intellect, body. We're moving forward, 100K a month, 100K a month, 100K a month. What do you think happens when you hit 100K a month? The debt naturally goes away.
Of course.
Right. It's the same thing with releasing weight. I would never say lose weight. Subconscious mind hears you lost something, but what happens when you lose your keys or your wallet?
Yeah.
The subconscious goes into a mode unbeknownst to you to try and find it.
Of course.
So we release weight. We release what's not necessary. Things we lose, we value. So words are sound, and sound is energy. Even the words we choose is important.
Exactly. Well, this is incredibly fascinating. And I want to just also point out that, Brian, you have a series of programs starting as low as $37 a month, which is absolutely
Mindset Masters, no one left behind.
It's amazing and ridiculously priced. I'm going to put the link to that inside of your show page. So again, you can go to yourfirst1000clients.com, go to Brian Dalmaso show page, and you will see links to that program as well. It sounds like that would be a good starting place for many of the folks.
Yeah, we created that. I mean, I'm most proud of that program. We created that. You can go somewhere 5K, 10K. I mean, you can get coaching from people like Grant Cardone, even Bob, right? But there was no live coaching with Bob for $37. So I kind of combined a couple of things from a couple of thought leaders that I was mentored by.
Right.
Ray Higdon in network marketing has something called Rank Makers for like $20 a month.
Right.
Where you could interact and stuff on Facebook. And then Bob had something called 6 Minutes to Success, which was mindset email videos, no interaction.
Right.
So I combined them on Facebook. We do daily live coaching, right? There's hundreds of videos. So you could type in, wealth or love or health, and you get videos. But we also meet Monday nights at 8 o'clock and 7 o'clock Eastern, sorry. And we talk about these subjects and topics, and we mastermind. So you can tell I'm very passionate about that one, because as far as I know, nobody in the history of the world has created something to be that value for that low, to help people, at the bottom.
It sounds like it's really, really worthwhile. And now I know why you can't sometimes attend bellwether meetings. Yes. Monday at 8 o'clock. I love it. I love it. That's so funny. Well, look, we're going to transition to a different part of the show right now, Brian. But I mean, I'm so excited about the work you're doing and the topics you talked about. And listeners, if you feel, if any of this resonates with you at all, I would suggest you check out Brian's work. And more importantly, you start to decide for yourself what you really want your future to be, because that's what we've all done. Every one of us has decided, whether we know it or not, or acknowledge it or not. It's been a decision that we made. Now why don't we take a look at those decisions to make sure we still want them the way we decided them when we first made them? So, Brian, here's some questions, a little bit more about you and a little bit more about how you think, and these questions are a little bit fun to do too. So here's the first one. Who, and I have a feeling I know what you're going to say, but I'll ask it anyway. Who in all of space and time would you like to have 1 hour to enjoy a walk in the park, a quick lunch, or an intense conversation with?
Richard Branson, and that'll happen. I know how to do it and where to go. It's just, I look at it as somebody that I want to model, at least from what I know of him. Yeah, because you get to multi-billionaire status by helping people. He has No One Left Behind programs, very spiritual, physical. The guy just went into space. Yeah. He's got his own island. So he's not one of these people. And I don't know Warren either, but it doesn't appear like Warren has much fun. Like Richard is out there sailing and going into, like he's experiencing what I see, all the different areas of that wheel of life, the health, the wealth, spirituality, philanthropy, right? So he is somebody, and I will do this. I already have the connection, but I would say that's probably the one.
Well, if you need a connection, I can help you with that as well. So at any point, just let me know. It's going to cost some money, but if you want it to happen, it's worth it. So absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and I also like your answer. I had figured you were going to say Bob, but I think you already spent so much time with Bob.
I spent a lot of one-on-one time with Bob over a decade. Yeah. I got to spend days with him at his house, having lunch, jumping on a jet, heading to Vegas. Like, we did some cool stuff.
I bet. Mm-hmm. So Richard, of course, is someone I think many people admire. But actually, even if he's been said before on this show as the person, the way you described why is the part that I like the most. So that was awesome. Next question is what we call the grand finale. It's the change the world question. And again, I think I know the answer. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready, brother. Bring it on.
All right, here it is. What is it that you're doing or would like to do that truly has the potential to literally change the world?
So that'd be Mindset Masters. And it's funny how this worked, because when I started to get into this information, I set the goal of 21 billion in net worth and assets by age 60 so that I could then go on to create either charter schools or a system or an education or something to bring this information very simply to the world.
Right.
And that was my connection to the 21 billion. nobody needs that kind of money for themselves. It's purely to impact, right? It's energy. Then all of a sudden I found out, like a year later, I said, wait a minute, we already created the program. Facebook has over 3 billion. You can reach almost everybody on Facebook. Mindset Masters is that program. So I had already launched it and didn't even know it. Now it's just a matter of scaling it and getting eyeballs. But yeah, getting this information at like a grade school level to anybody that wants it, right? Not everybody wants to, rule the world and all that stuff. But for people that are hungry and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired, I want it to be available and affordable. And that's our goal. That's what we're doing.
So people, again, it will be on Brian's show page, but if you want to go to mindsetmasterylive.com, I'm giving, /mindset-masters. That's where you could sign up. And you know what? This is a very low cost program. If you're inclined, I would highly recommend that you share this link. Yes, sign up yourself, but understand that it's not Brian. As I'm speaking to him, I'm speaking to you first, listener. Brian doesn't need your $37. Okay. What he needs to accomplish the goal of helping others. And that's honestly what everything we do is about. No person on earth has any truer purpose than to help others. How you do it is the way that is truly your expression, the way you humanly are expressed in this space. But helping others is your absolutely true purpose. And this is Brian's true purpose. So let's help. I'm going to help, and I want you to share that link. It's on him. It's on Brian Dalmaso's show page at yourfirst1000clients.com. And let's get the word out. Let's help more people. Let's lift our society out of the doldrums it's in right now. Maybe you don't think it's in the doldrums. I happen to. And let's take it to the next level. Now, Brian, you have something as a giveaway, which is also pretty special. If I remember correctly, it's called the 12 Principles to Scale Your Business 10X.
Yes, we're going to get that to you guys as a freebie, but it's also, if somebody reads that, it applies to health and relationship, applies to everything. The principles are the principles. We labeled it that way because most people do want to scale their income, but you'll find if people read it and apply it, if their health is in the toilet, they can raise it, their income. You can work on multiple things. So the principles in there have been passed down for generations. And the only downside is it's free.
Yeah, right? I know. And unfortunately, as we
don't value free.
Well, unfortunately, for what we've learned is that if people don't pay, they don't pay attention. Yeah. And this is your chance. I mean, pay attention. This is something, this is gold. In fact, I'm finding the same thing as well. As I told you before, I'm giving away a free book called Coach Elevation. And I do see people downloading it, but I'm wishing more people would read the book that they just downloaded, because this is this is the gift. I mean, these are what we're here to do. We're here to change and empower people. And you're doing it your way, and I am my way as well. Even this show is my way of changing the world. That's how I answered the question, you know.
I love it.
So anyway, my friend, I really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for taking the time to spend with us and imparting this incredible wisdom. And all I could say is, listeners, I hope you use it. It's just that simple. You have the keys to change everything about you that you don't like, and more importantly, to elevate your life, your world, and your health to levels you probably have never been to before. So just do it. Thank you, Brian, and we will talk again soon.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. Thanks so much.